In what time we have remaining together this morning on this Zman Matan Toratenu, the time of giving of Torah, I want to see if it's allowed anymore, especially after this week, to publicly remember the reality and the history of Torah and its place in the life of the Jewish people. I do that not only because it's Shavuot, but because the events that transpired this past week in Israel, with the actions of Israel's current government and the passing of the Israeli budget that I won't be talking about in detail today, are, in my opinion, an existential threat to the future of the Jewish people. And it's based on a dishonesty about what Torah is and what it's for in the first place. We Jewish people, we investigate, we learn, we challenge, we question. So I must question today, what allows us as a worldwide people to get to a point where we can look at something so obviously untrue, so obviously unsustainable, so obviously unhealthy, and feel guilt about questioning it in public? And yet, that seems to be our condition, where a government in Israel, made mostly of non-Ultra-Orthodox members of parliament, members of Knesset, passed a budget that at a time when the world and Israel is economically unsafe, gives multiple billions of shekels, multiple billions of dollars to pay the fastest growing sector of the Israeli population that, if nothing changes, within 15 years will make up 1/4 of the population of the state of Israel. And it pays for them to learn no skills and do no non-Torah productive work. That's what it does. The money that was given will create an Israel that we do not recognize, an Israel that has a third world economy, and an Israel that cannot protect itself, and an Israel that, by the image it projects of what it means to be a Jew, to be a child of Torah, endangers the Jewish population in the world instead of protecting us. But that is, in fact, the situation that we face right now. So allow me to take a moment and talk about the history of Torah and the false Torah, the false memory, the false history that seems to be being offered in our world today, in the center of the Jewish world. I don't know about you, but during our Torah reading today, so beautifully offered, I was, paying attention to the words. And the hundreds of thousands of Ultra-Orthodox community members in Israel, maybe they're hearing different words than I am. Because the Torah says in the commandment for Shabbat that we read this morning, it doesn't just say rest on the seventh day. It says 6 days shall you work. That's what it says. Where are we going to get the food to enjoy that beautiful Shabbat? Where are we going to have a roof over our head in order for that day to be meaningful? 6 days shall you work. It's not understood as a commandment that everybody's got to work 6 out of 7. but it is a basic reality that Torah has always recognized. It says over and over and over again in our tradition, Limdat Torah derech eretz, that the Torah teaches us the everyday practical way to live. That's what Torah's for. So Torah teaches us that no men should work, that they should be supported by, I don't know, I thought it says in the Torah that manna from heaven ended when we entered the promised land. It ceased to be raining bread again. That all of these individuals should not work and should be supported by those who do. It's never been that way in the history of the Jewish people. It's not that way in the Jewish world outside of Israel, and it was nothing like that in Israel until the late 1970s, when all of a sudden the government decided, for a number of political reasons that are not important this morning, to start funding people to do nothing but learn Torah. At that time, the average size of a Haredi household was half what it is now. And the percentage of men who worked was double what it is now. It's only during these last 40 years in the Jewish wilderness that we've created a myth that never existed before, that so many people should not work at anything but Torah, and should do so while ignoring the willingness to participate or contribute in any way to the society that is supporting them. And what kind of vision of Torah is this? Well, I'll tell you the Torah I remember on this day where we said Yizkor. Maybe you remember it too. It's a Torah that not only says 6 days shall you work and shall you rest on the seventh, it's a Torah that says, you should love your neighbor as yourself. And even though the rabbis meant that means Ahavat Yisrael, that you should love your fellow Jew, the Torah also says that you must love the stranger, the one who is different than you. This is the Torah that inspired all of humanity with the story of the Exodus from Egypt, that says no matter how your life is going, no matter how much you have, you must understand the heart of the stranger and the oppressed. And yet, when I talk to my friends in the Ultra-Orthodox Jewish community, they've said to me in so many words, there are only mitzvot. There's no such thing as Jewish values. Let me say that again, because that's who's getting the billions of dollars. A community that believes that the Torah has no interest in values, only commandments. So you can do the commandments, and then when I, not this time, but 4 years ago, can bring teenagers to Israel, that we can be almost swarmed by a group of young Haredi male youth because Cantor Katie at the time was wearing a kippah and they were unwilling to accept it. And that they came over to us, and when they did, and when it wasn't enough to focus or insult her, when one of the members of our group was a Jew of color, they began calling that young person the Hebrew equivalent of the N-word. And when one of our young people who went to chat turned to them in Hebrew and said, "Ve'ahavta rareacha kamocha," they acted like they don't understand Hebrew. And it's possible that they don't. Not the Hebrew of Torah, not the Hebrew of a tradition that challenges us and that says there's always more than one way. Our tradition talks about shivim panim leTorah. There are 70 faces and facets of Torah. Not anymore. We're going to create the only Jewish state that we've ever had We're going to take away the engine of its security and of its economy. And we're going to support those who were not welcomed into the IDF because there's too much hate in them. We're going to support a community that teaches racism to its young people as Torah. My ultra-Orthodox nephew, who I visited in March, asked me, "What are you going to do tomorrow?" Because we had to talk about something. And I said, "Oh, we're going to save a child's heart." Have you heard of Save a Child's Heart? It's a very important and beautiful Israeli initiative that brings children who need heart surgery from countries that don't offer it to them and where they don't have heart surgery, and gives them heart surgery for free. Most of these countries have no diplomatic relations with Israel. Well, does that matter? Apparently it does. So when I tell my nephew, whose parents grew up in the West and have similar values to me, that this is where we're going, he says, "Well, not Arabs, I hope." And when I suggested gently that that's not how this is because I don't live with him every day, he said, "Well, all terrorists are Arabs and all Arabs are terrorists." Oh, but that school, the school, by the way, that is open in Israel on Yom HaAtzmaut, with no mention that day on Yom HaAtzmaut, is now again completely funded, as are the lives of the people who go there to learn no core subjects and to learn that they don't have to work, that their non-productive version of their Torah lives is more important than everything and everyone around them. So I have a suggestion for you. I want everyone to go home. If you happen to have children, tell them. If you have friends who have children, tell them that they all have to leave their professions now, and all of them have to get a doctorate in Jewish education or in Jewish studies and become PhDs in Judaism, and that's what they need to do. Tell them they need to do it, even though there are maybe jobs for 1% of them in doing that, because we all need to study Judaism all the time. If I made such a case, I'd be thrown out of every Jewish room in the world as a lunatic. And so why is it that the exact same argument can be made that people have to be piled high and deep in Torah at every moment, even though there are not just enough of them so that there can be teachers for this world of Torah, but all of them need to do this, and we are prejudiced, we are against Torah if we disagree. Not only that, but that people in Israel who look like us and think like us and send their children off to risk their lives for the safety of the state of Israel and the Jewish people should fund them forever. It's a case based on a lie of what Torah has ever been. There should be some small percentage of people, Reform, Ultra-Orthodox, secular, anywhere in between, who spend their lives learning Torah. It should be a percentage that has some relationship with the number of people who, like I'm standing here doing, do that work. And if people choose otherwise, they're going to need to find some way to fund themselves, because the time has come to stop risking the security and the economy of the state that is the future of the Jewish people in the world over a situation that is historically unrecognizable, that is untenable, and has never been and can never be sustainable. I've been working quietly for the last number of weeks with some members of Temple who are involved in this issue to create not something about Reform or Orthodox or Ultra-Orthodox or secular, but a broad-based coalition that makes a case that the future of Israel and the future of the Jewish people and the future of Torah is more important than some false, unsustainable fantasy about what the world of Torah is supposed to be. If we sat at a service and heard someone remember our friend and talk about things they never did, and things they never were, and a life they never lived, we would be offended and we would stand up and we would say, that's wrong. Well, it's time to stop listening for a eulogy for the real Torah. It's time for us as a broad-based community to stand, to challenge community leaders and community examples and to create a coalition all across the diaspora that says we live in a real world. You're going to have to as well. We're committed to helping you do it, but only when we can say that Torah is real, that the Torah we live and practice is real. And when it comes to what's known in the ultra-Orthodox world as Olam HaTorah, as the world of Torah, that the emperor has no clothes. And we will no longer stand idly by and call it support of Israel and allow this myth to endanger the future of our state and the future of our people worldwide. The time to speak clearly and truthfully has come. This government, in its extremism, has helped, I think, us see things that much more clearly. And so, this Shavuot, I commit to you that I will honor Torah, that I will honor the real Torah that loves human beings, not just Jews, that I will honor a Torah that believes that we should have enough value in ourselves to work hard and also have Shabbat and honor our tradition, that we are part of a people who have not only the details of ritual commandments, but the glorious vision of the prophets that says other people should look at Judaism and see an example. The time to speak up and speak out has never been more urgent. And I promise you that I will do so, and that we as a congregation will be full partners in doing so as well. The Torah deserves no less. Kei nihi ratzon.